We all have a choice. The choice is you can let the outside noise affect you or drive you. What's it going to be?
But he is going to be met hard and met fast by number 31 of that defense, Daryl Green, a name that I have said again and again tonight. Daryl Green making a huge tackle.
Welcome to the 24/7 podcast. You're now here with Daryl Green. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Today we're going to do a week 5 review, going over my pick sheet. But specifically, I want to start with 3 games to look for. 3 interesting matchups that I think will shake things out prospectively in those conferences, in those divisions. The first game I want to start with is the Baltimore Ravens versus the Cincinnati Bengals. We have to look at the keys in this game, the matchups in this game, and the Ravens, their defense has been a problem. Their offense has also been a problem late in games. We've seen them get out the big leads against Miami and Buffalo, but they haven't been able to bring the game home, and that's where a lot of people are concerned. There was no reason that the Buffalo Bills should have won that game. They had no business winning that game, but the Ravens, they let them back in the game. John Harbaugh, questionable decision, but they just have to be able to close out games. In the Bengals, they started off the season really rough. I was wondering personally if they were a one-year wonder, but now they're starting to get things going, actually using those receivers, getting to where we seen them last year. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, those guys both played exceptional last week. But I really want to see them get Joe Mixon going, and I think this is the week that they actually do that. Looking at the Ravens' rush defense right now, they're giving up 5 yards per carry. That's not good. That's not what you want to be giving up. Is a defensive line, is a linebacking core. That's just way too much for an average rush. So the Bengals, they have to find creative ways to get Joe Mixon going in that running game. We seen last year when they were at their best, Joe Mixon was a key factor in that offense. He's an elite running back. But don't forget, just because he isn't getting the production or the touches that he should be getting, this guy is still an elite running back, and he'll be a game changer once they implement him into the game plan. However, the Ravens, I don't like their offensive matchup against this Bengals defense. I think the Bengals have a defense suited for what the Ravens like to do well. We look at Logan Wilson. He's starting to get in that conversation. He's starting to be looked at as one of the best off-ball middle linebackers in the NFL. He covers well. He runs sideline to sideline. He fills gaps. He's not wrong a lot. And we're going to see him matched up against Mark Andrews some of the times. We're going to see guys like Awuzie, Jesse Bates. We're going to see those guys. And with Rashad Bateman getting hurt last week, we're questionable on his status, questionable on how much of an impact he can play this week. But Devin Duvernay, that's going to be the guy who has to step up. We know J.K. Dobbins is still recovering from that ACL injury, so he's still got to get back into the groove of things. This may not be the week for that because, like I said, I think the Bengals have a good defense. Their secondary has some holes. But when we look at that front 7, I like their linebackers. I like their defensive line. Really, though, this game will be a battle of the quarterbacks. 2 elite quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. How do those guys feel today? How do they come out today? Do they perform at MVP levels? Joe Burrow, like I said, he's been getting things back on track. Is he going to have a good game? The Ravens, they have Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, but like I said, if the game's close, you can't depend on that Ravens defense. That's what they've shown us. Key mistakes when they could have gotten a stop against the Bills. That defense has to be better in those key moments. This is the Ravens, a team who's known for defense. So we just want to see them be better in those clutch situations, those fourth quarter situations, because I believe if it's a close ball game and it's between who's going to make the clutch plays, I have to side with that Bengals offense. Looking at that receiving core, those guys are true playmakers. Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. So with that being said, I'm ultimately going to lean towards Cincinnati to win this game because the Ravens, they've been inconsistent. They've really been inconsistent. They haven't gave me a 4-quarter football game yet. It's, one half here, one half there. I need 4 quarters of football from the Ravens, but I haven't got that. And Lamar Jackson, he didn't look great last week. We see him inaccurate when he could have hit Mark Andrews on some throws. So I really have to side with what I've seen as of late. We know the Ravens, they're a good team, but I want you to update your resume. The Bengals, they have updated their resume, and their resume is looking pretty good right now. So I'm going to side with the Bengals to win that game. Going to my second game that I think is a must-watch game, I have the Cowboys versus the Los Angeles Rams, and it's time to pump the brakes on Cooper Rush. It seriously is. It's time to pump those brakes. The Cinderella story comes to an end tomorrow, and I'm very confident in saying that for a number of reasons. Looking at their offense, I don't believe that CeeDee Lamb has a big game against this Rams defense. If I'm the Rams defensive coordinator, I'm letting Jalen Ramsey follow this game. I'm letting him follow CeeDee Lamb, whether he goes in the slot, whether he lines up in the Z, whether he lines up in the X. I'm letting him follow him all around the field because I want Cooper Rush to beat me with those other guys. We've known that run game is on and off. They had a good rushing game 2 weeks ago, and I thought Tony Pollard, Zeke, I thought that can be an elite balance, but it just hasn't been. Zeke, he's not that guy who can give you consistent performances. Tony Pollard, he's a big play. He's a hit or miss guy, really. He's going to give you a big run or he's going to give you a whole lot of nothing. So I don't see the offense performing. Micah Parsons hasn't gotten a sack in 2 weeks. I expect him to come out here guns blazing, with the right mindset. DeMarcus Lawrence, the rest of those guys. I like the Cowboys defense. I like Trayvon Diggs. But I don't believe the offense does enough to win this game. Matthew Stafford, that offense isn't really good either. But I believe Cooper Kupp gets a touchdown. Tyler Higbee is going to be a big part of the game plan this week. And they got to get Cam Akers going. They really have to. It just hasn't looked good. And when you know they have no run game, you can't hide your offensive line. Their offensive line was exposed against San Francisco, and Matthew Stafford was just getting hit consistently. So you have to protect your offensive line. Let them lean on their strength. Let them lean on their athleticism and get in that run blocking mode. Because if you just have a passing battle, Micah Parsons, those guys are going to get after you. This is an elite pass rushing group, and you don't want to get into that battle. So I want to see you use Cam Akers, Daryl Henderson, get some play action going. Cooper Kupp, those guys are going to be honed in on him. And it's week 5 now. Allen Robinson, where are you? I'm really calling on you to show something this game. You got paid in the offseason. They could have kept Von Miller if you were going to play like this. They expected you to come in, do some of the same things we seen Odell doing, but you're not doing that. That's what you're here for. So this has to be your coming out party. You know Trayvon Diggs. You know those guys. Trayvon Diggs like to play in phase. So there's opportunities to have. There's opportunities to be made. So I really want to see who comes on as a second wide receiver for the Rams because that's what they're missing right now. We know Matthew Stafford. Everyone in the sports media has seen it. He's so locked in on Cooper Kupp. And when they take that away, it's not productive. It's not looking effective and efficient. So we really have to see a number 2 receiver come on this week. And I believe the Rams win this one in a low-scoring game. Going over to my third game of the week. This is my hot take for the week. I'm very confident. It's a pick'em game for me. I have the Green Bay Packers versus the New York Giants. But I have the Giants edging this one out. I seriously do. Looking at how the Packers defense has played, I believe Saquon Barkley can come out here and have another great performance. I seriously do. The Patriots, they rushed the ball well against the Packers. And the Giants have the number 1 rushing game in the league currently. You know what Daniel Jones holds as an athlete. You know they're going to run read option. You know they're going to run the ball with Saquon Barkley. But it's going to also come down to what they do in the passing game. Daniel Jones, you're going to be asked to make some throws in some key moments because we know that they're going to hone in on the rush game. Last week, they weren't satisfied with their performance against the Patriots. They gave up a lot of yards on the ground. So now they're coming out with that mindset. We're not going to let the Giants run the ball on us. That's the mindset they're going to have. So Daniel Jones, make those throws, be accurate. Don't turn over the ball. Because once you do that, Now they have to ease off. Now you open up those rush lanes. You let Saquon Barkley do what he does best. So that's going to be important. Going over to the Packers offense, Alan Lazard had a big game last week. They won the game in overtime, but I'm just not sold on the Packers. I don't like a lot of the things I'm seeing, both in the secondary and on the ground, stopping the run. I'm just not liking what I'm seeing. Aaron Rodgers, he's been okay. He hasn't been the MVP candidate we're used to seeing, and we've also seen some uncharacteristic interceptions out of Aaron Rodgers. This is a guy who had 4 interceptions last year, and he's approaching that number very quickly right now. So what are we really seeing here? Like I said, you got to update your resume. I can't go on what I seen last year. This is a new year, a new team, new receivers. I'm going on now, and that offense just hasn't been great. But another thing we seen, Aaron Jones was able to run the ball exceptionally well against the Patriots, and I'm really going to be interested to see how the Giants stop that attack. I believe that's the key to the game. You take away Aaron Jones, and now you got Aaron Rodgers forcing some things. Like I said, those receivers, you don't have Devontae Adams anymore. So you're dealing with some young guys. Alan Lazard, he's a good guy, but I don't believe he's a true number 1 receiver. So if you take away Aaron Jones, take him out of the passing game. Take him out of the run game. Identify where he is pre-snap every play. And then I believe you give yourself the best chance to win that game against the Packers. We've seen that pass defense look well last week against Chicago. However, that may be an indictment of Justin Fields. We know that offense hasn't been much of anything so far this season. They blitzed a lot. You don't want to come out and try to blitz Aaron Rodgers consistently. He'll really pick you apart. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can get home with 4. How do they do that? Like I said, you don't want to send all those guys because Aaron Rodgers, he's not going to miss those reads. He's not going to miss those hot routes like a Justin Fields. You can't really throw him off by blitzing. So I want to see that defensive game plan. But I have the Giants winning a close one. I really have them winning a close one. My upset of the week. And I'm going with the Giants to win this game. Going to the rest of my pick sheet, let's look at it. I have the Giants. I said I have the Giants beating Green Bay. I have Buffalo beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kenny Pickett, I just want to see good things out of you this week. I don't expect you to come out here and throw us to a victory, but I want to see good things. Better than what we've seen with Mitchell Trubisky. The Bills, that's an exceptional defense. So if you can move the ball consistently in any form, whether it's passing, run, play action, any of that, I would be fine. I would be satisfied with that. I want to see the Steelers build something, start to move and transition into this Kenny Pickett era seamlessly. The Buffalo Bills, they're rolling hot right now. That's going to be a hard team to beat. So I have the Bills winning this game, but still I want to see Kenny Pickett perform well. Going to my next game, the LA Chargers versus Cleveland. Let's pump the brakes right here. This game is closer than what a lot of people think it will be. I have the Chargers winning, but I don't know if they can really stop Nick Chubb in that run game. So that's going to be interesting to see. We know Justin Herbert. He comes out, he throws the ball a ton. He throws for a ton of yards. But what about Austin Eckler? This is a Pro Bowl guy, and you're just not getting him the touches he needs. It's that simple. You fell in love with throwing the ball. I feel like you got caught up in some of the media, Justin Herbert, he was hyped to have a breakout season. And he is a great talent. He's having a good season. But balance that offense out. Don't just drop back and throw the ball the entire game. Going to my next game, Chicago versus Minnesota. Minnesota's going to win this game. I like Minnesota's defense. Kirk Cousins, whatever. But Justin Fields hasn't gotten it going. That team just doesn't look good. They don't have the best weapons. They have a couple running backs, but receivers, offensive line, that's a rebuilding process. And so we're going to have to pump the brakes on them as well. Just give that a couple more years. Maybe next season. But right now, no. So I have Minnesota winning that game. Detroit versus New England. I have Detroit winning that game. I'm sold on Detroit. Maybe I'm a little delusional for saying that, for being sold on Detroit, but I love their run game. I love the creativity that this offense has came. We seen them in a shootout with Seattle last week. 45 offensive points. Like I said, Amon-Ra St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift. These guys have an offense to win games. That defense really has to step up. I know they're going over in practice, but some of the missed assignments, missed tackles, clean it up. Clean it up, play assignment football, and you can really start to win some games and maybe even make a playoff push. I'm not giving up on the Lions. I think they did well in the draft, did well in free agency. That's a good team. They just got to put it together and play some defense. Going to my next game, Seattle versus New Orleans. Seattle, Geno Smith. Geno Smith is reincarnated. I've never seen Geno Smith play like this in his entire career. We know what he was with the Jets. He's been a journeyman pretty much after that, but he's got another chance at it, and he's making the most of it. He still ain't wrote back. They wrote him off. He still ain't wrote back. He performing great right now. A lot of people are saying he's performing better than Russell Wilson did in those same colors. And I mean, can we say that's not true? We've seen Russell Wilson burn down a lot of kitchens in Denver. New pots, new pans, but can't make it happen. So I have Seattle beating New Orleans. And New Orleans is really fighting the injury bug right now. That's another major thing going on there. Jameis Winston's been out. Alvin Kamara's been out. They've been fighting the injury bug. And they've just been turning the ball over. So I want to see Detroit force some turnovers. I believe this is the game that they put it all together. Going over to the rest of these games, I believe they're more one-sided games that should be easy victories for these teams to win. The New York Jets, I have them beating the Miami Dolphins. That offense without Tua is not the same. Teddy Bridgewater cannot use Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle like Tua can. So that offense is going to be limited. Their play calls are going to be limited. And I just don't believe that they have enough to beat that Jets team. We've seen Zach Wilson play well in the second half against the Steelers. That defense forced 4 turnovers, so that counts for something. And I believe we're going to see a whole lot more of the same. The Jets, they should win this game. Atlanta versus Tampa Bay. Atlanta hasn't been getting it done this season. Tampa Bay, I believe this is the game. They come out, they get back on track with this game. We know Kyle Pitts hasn't really been productive this season. That's not to say he's not the same caliber guy, but he just hasn't had the production we've seen like last season. Drake London, a good guy. But really, I think Tampa Bay just outmatches Atlanta. They should dominate this game. They should win big, get back on track. Like I said, see that offense. We've seen them play well against Kansas City, but that defense, they were playing behind the whole game. Started off the game with a fumble and kickoff return. Clean those things up. I believe they play a clean game. They look good. Tom Brady, he's getting those weapons back. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. So like I said, I believe they win this game big. Going over to Tennessee versus Washington, Carson Wentz, this season is wrote off for the Commanders. This season is wrote off. Just write it off. Pack up all your gear. Pack up all your team clothing. Get it ready for next year because Carson Wentz is not going to lead you anywhere. Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, the Titans, they're going to come in, they're going to perform well, and they're going to win this game. I like Jahan Dotson. I like Terry McLaurin. But I just don't believe in Carson Wentz when it matters most. I tried to believe in him in Indianapolis. He failed me. He missed the playoffs when he had no business missing the playoffs. So it's hard for me to trust him. I don't trust Ryan Tannehill either, but I believe they get that run game going, and then you start to get the ball to some of those receivers and tight ends. Going to my next game, Houston versus Jacksonville. I have Jacksonville winning this game. I like Jacksonville. I really do. They made it hard to root for them last week, but that was a muggy game. You know, conditions were really rough. I'm not excusing Trevor Lawrence for what he did with the interceptions and the fumbles. There is no excuse for that. We know what the Eagles represent as a defense, but like I said, there's no excuse for that. And he's really going to have to get back on track and show us that that was an abnormal game. That was an aberration. That's not who he is as a quarterback. He's not a turnover guy. I really want to see that this week. And I believe this is a great game for them to show it. We know Houston is not the best team. Jacksonville is one of the better teams. So I believe they also win this game big. Going over to San Francisco versus Carolina, I believe going out of this weekend, we're going to see Baker Mayfield as one of those quarterbacks who woke up seeing demons Monday morning. That defense is going to get after him. We know that offensive line is not great for Carolina. And San Francisco, Nick Bosa leads the NFL in pressures. He's going to get at least 2 sacks. I'm betting on that. He's going to get after Baker Mayfield. That defense is going to be ferocious. And I don't really believe that Baker Mayfield has played as bad as people are making it out to be. if you really roll the tape, watch some of the film, those receivers aren't doing their jobs. They're really not. Some of the tight ends, they aren't doing their jobs. So we're seeing this with a lot of teams, receivers and quarterbacks not being on the same page. And that's why it's so important for a quarterback to have that rapport with his guys. You see quarterbacks, you see Tom Brady, he's throwing to his guys all offseason. So that's really important, that chemistry between a quarterback and a receiver, because you have to know your quarterback, you have to know your receiver, you have to know where to place the ball. And if the receiver doesn't know what the quarterback really wants to do, where he feels he's going to place the ball against a certain look, that leads to things like interceptions, incompletions, and that's what we've been seeing a lot of. But I'm not going to put all of that blame on Baker Mayfield. While I don't believe he's the elite quarterback people are making him out to be, I still believe he's a good quarterback in this league, and he should rightfully be a starter. However, playing against the 49ers, this is not the game to show that. The 49ers are going to play great defense. Deebo Samuel is going to get a lot of touches. Wilson out of the backfield, he's going to get touches. He's going to run well. Ayuk, Kittle, all of those guys, they have good weapons. We just have to see if Jimmy G comes in another week, doing what he does, getting back from that injury, getting into the flow of things, and really seeing that the 49ers are a true contender this season. The last game that I didn't cover, Philadelphia versus Arizona, Philly should win this game big. Kyler Murray hasn't looked good. That team hasn't looked good. I want to see what they look like when DeAndre Hopkins gets back. They won last week. Marquise Brown had a good game, but I'm not sold on that team at all. When we look at the Cardinals, we're looking at a team who truly should be 0-4. They had no business winning that game against the Raiders. They had no business winning that game against Carolina. This is a team who could have possibly been 0-4 right now. We know what Philly represents. Performing like the best team in the NFL up to week 5. Like I said, Jalen Hurts, MVP contender, top to bottom, best roster in the NFL. Defense, they get after people. Rushing attack, we know what that is capable of. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, that's just a well-oiled machine. And Arizona, they're just going to be a victim this week. They're seriously going to be a victim. Philly's going to come in, win this game big, and that wraps it up for my week 5 analysis. Again, thank you guys for watching today's episode of the 24/7 podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And feel free to comment under the post. Let me know what teams you think are going to win and why. If you don't agree with one of my takes, let me know what do you see differently. And I'm always open to discuss things of that nature in the comments. So like I said, let me know your picks for week 5. What do you see differently from mine? And again, thank you for watching today's episode.